Hello and welcome. I'm Vaishali Kohli. You're watching Deep Dive on NewsX. Today, January 3rd, 2026, the world wakes up to shocking news. Explosions rocking Venezuela's capital Caracas in what appears to be a bold escalation in US-Venezuela tensions. In this segment, we'll break down the chaos while aerial strikes are underway, the strategic distance between the US and Venezuela, and how the country's rugged topography plays into this high-stakes drama. Let's dive in. First, the explosions. In the early hours of this morning, around 2 a.m. local time, at least 7 massive blasts shattered the silence of Caracas. Witnesses reported low-flying aircrafts screaming overhead, columns of smoke rising from key sites like Fort Tiuna military base and La Carlota air base, and widespread power outages plunging neighborhoods into darkness. Unverified visuals surfacing in social media allegedly captured the moment the explosions hit the city. Social media erupted with videos of bright flashes lighting up the night sky, air raid sirens wailing, and residents fleeing into the streets in panic. People in several neighborhoods ran out into the streets, and some were visible from a distance in different parts of Caracas. Residents also said they heard gunfire in several parts of the capital. Reuters witnesses described airplanes buzzing low and thick, and a thick plume of smoke visible from southern parts of the city. CNN teams on the ground confirmed multiple detonations, with some areas left without electricity for hours. The Venezuelan government quickly accused the United States of launching attacks on civilian and military installations across multiple states, calling it an imperialist attack. The southern part of the city near a major military base was also left without power. Notably, Trump had warned the possibility of ground strikes against Venezuela. These aren't random acts. They're part of a coordinated U.S. military operation. This builds on prior actions, including a CIA drone strike last month on a coastal port facility used for drug loading. Now, U.S. President Donald Trump confirmed large-scale strikes against Venezuela. Amid the U.S. strikes in Venezuela, President Donald Trump said that Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and his wife have been captured and flown out of the country. Now, why are these aerial strikes being conducted? This comes amid Venezuela's tensions with the United States as Donald Trump-led administration takes actions against the government of President Nicolas Maduro, including the seizure of oil tankers and at least one airstrike on land earlier. Apart from these steps, the U.S. military also carried out several deadly strikes on boats accused of drug smuggling in the Caribbean Sea and the Eastern Pacific Ocean. The deadly maritime campaign has killed at least 107 people in no fewer than 30 strikes. Trump has repeatedly spoken about possible land operations in Venezuela as part of efforts to push Maduro to step down, including through tougher sanctions. Notably, Nicolas Maduro has strongly rejected any links to criminal activity and has said the United States is trying to remove him from power to gain access to Venezuela's large oil reserves and rare earth mineral resources. In an official statement, the Venezuelan government alleged that the goal of the American strikes was to take possession of the country's oil and minerals, adding that Washington would not succeed in taking the resources. The roots trace back to long-standing U.S. accusations against Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro's regime, labeled a narco-terrorist state by the State Department. Venezuela has been blamed for facilitating drug trafficking, particularly through gangs like Tren de Aragua. Maduro has denounced these as an oil grab, but the U.S. frames it as a fight against drugs and tyranny. Shifting gear, let's talk geography, specifically the distance between the U.S. and Venezuela, which makes this conflict feel uncomfortably close to home. The shortest aerial distance is from Miami, Florida, a major U.S. hub, to Caracas, clocking in at approximately 2,201 kilometers or 1,367 miles. That's roughly a 3-hour flight for a commercial jet or even less for military aircrafts. This proximity allows the US to project power swiftly from bases in Florida or the Caribbean, turning the region into a potential flashpoint. Venezuela's northern coastline is just off the US's southern doorstep, amplifying strategic tensions. But Venezuela isn't flat terrain. Its topography adds layers of complexity. The country boasts dramatic mountainous regions that dominate its landscape. In the north, the Venezuelan Andes, an extension of the mighty Andean chain, and along the Caribbean coast with peaks soaring over 4,500 meters. Pico Bolivar, the highest at 4,978 meters, remains snow-capped year-round, creating alpine zones above 3,000 meters. These ranges, broken by fertile valleys where most Venezuelans live, provide natural barriers and hiding spots for military assets. To the southeast, the Guiana Highlands cover over half the country, a vast plateau eroded into deep canyons by Orinoco River tributaries. Here you'll find the iconic Tepuis, massive flat-topped mountains, rising abruptly like ancient fortresses, some with cliffs up to 800 meters high. The Grand Sabana region features these tepuis, including the source of Angel Falls, the world's tallest waterfall. This rugged terrain affects everything: rainfall patterns, ecosystems, and yes, military operations. Mountains can shield radar sites, complicate low-level flights, and offer guerrilla warfare advantages. But they also expose targets to precision strikes from above. In a conflict like this, Venezuela's highlands could become both a defender's ally and an attacker's challenge. As the smoke clears, the world watches. These strikes mark the beginning of a broader intervention or a calculated push to force regime change. I have Major General Sudhakar Ji, Senior Geopolitical and Strategic Defense Expert, joining me on the broadcast. Major General Sudhakar Ji, a day full of developments in terms of what we've been covering as well, and absolutely for Venezuela, a very sad day indeed. For Venezuela, what would you like to say?
Yeah, for us it is a sad day, Vaishali, but this is a great day as far as Donald Trump is concerned. It's a day to be celebrated by him and his team, but this is a very unfortunate day in the global order. If a superpower like USA carries out the invasion the way they have done against Venezuela, then what message are they giving to the world order? Does it mean that India also can invade into Bangladesh in the similar manner, the way things are unfolding? Or if he can do a thing like this, then why should people ask questions to Putin, the way he invaded into Ukraine? In rules-based international order in 21st century, a threat against the sovereign territory or sovereignty and territorial integrity of a country, but actually it doesn't, it has no reasons to, to carry out such kind of an activity. And like the way you give out the distance, it's roughly 4,500 to 5,500 kilometers away, crow fly distance between USA and Venezuela. So if that be the kind of issue, then what is it that has driven Donald Trump to go in to do what he has done? See, the regime change may be a facade. What is behind the regime change has to be understood. You see, till date, all the assurances, commitment and tall promises which Donald Trump had made during the election campaigning and in past 1 year of his 2.0, he has not been able to demonstrate any successful achievement till now. And therefore, I would say this is an act of desperation to distract the domestic constituency for the challenges which are growing by the day, whether it is the price rise or the recession-like environment, the economy running into debt of 38 trillion US dollar, meaning they require $1 trillion simply for interest servicing. The revenue generation is $4 trillion. The requirement is $6 trillion to run the country. There is a deficit of $2 trillion here. And name anything, whether the gun laws, the amendment, second amendment, nothing can be done by any president. Supreme Court has given a favorable statement way back in 2008. So, and the kind of shooting incidents taking place inside the USA, the tariff and the consequent spiral of turbulence in the world order, which he has actually triggered, is something to actually not feel proud of. So therefore, under the circumstances, he was left with no option but to look for something which could add on, make a value addition to give a reprieve against the economic challenges. The economic challenges today in the world order, the national security strategy, which has been published sometime in last week of November by USA, that clearly states that this is a clean departure from the erstwhile national security strategy, and in this clean departure they have shifted, they have gravitated to Monroe Doctrine. Monroe Doctrine, people need to understand, this was way back in 1823, the President James Monroe, he had formulated this doctrine and he had gone in for an agreement with Europe wherein the sphere of influence had been defined, and also commitment from Europe had been taken that across Atlantic they won't colonize any of the countries in the Americas, means North and the South America, and also similar thing were applicable to USA, and last but not the least, they would continue to operate and ensure security and safety of the respective sphere of influence. The complete America would be the responsibility of America. So does that mean that USA has pulled back from the world order to look at the Americas or look after across the Atlantic? The answer is yes. So how has it happened? It has actually left Europe in a lurch, or the NATO members and the UK. It has left the Russia, it is calling it as a kind of a peer group. It wants to restore status quo ante as far as G8 membership is concerned. It wants Russia to be brought back to and linked up with the leading economy geopolitics. In his own way, he is talking about isolating China, but with China directly one-on-one. It is trying to navigate very complex situations, trying to secure the rare earth element, trying to secure the commitment from China that it continues to buy soybean and corn from the central portion of the America where the Republicans dominate as far as the voting share is concerned, and calling China as one of the G2s. G1 is USA, G2 is China. So these are the two poles they have defined between the two. Whereas the world order is demanding multipolarity and multi-alignment. So under these circumstances, Indo-Pacific has been virtually, I would say to large an extent, has been left in a lurch, and Middle East is Middle East. We all know what is happening. Therefore, it brings us back to Africa. They couldn't care less, except for where the white population or the Christian populations are threatened in Nigeria, and it back to America. Venezuela, if at all it has struck or hit Venezuela, it is hit with a couple of primary aims. One of the aim is whichever segment or component is likely to generate revenue for America, they are the ones which are attracting America to use its military might under Donald Trump 2.0. Things like oil, 2.6 trillion market in the world order. Things like the drug money, it's around 1.6 to $2 trillion. Things like the pharmaceutical industry, $2 trillion. Things like the defense industry, $2.1 to $2.4 trillion. Things like the rare earth element, which is picking up momentum by the day, it is anything between $3 to $6 trillion US dollar today. It is the new oil in the global order today. Therefore, whichever country possesses, like for example Syria, otherwise there is no logic of getting or propping up a guy or a person who was ex-ISIS or Al-Qaeda member as the best president in the world, the smartest guy going around. There is no reason and justification in rules-based international order. And you find all the non-state actors...
Major General Sudhakarji, apologies for interrupting you, but we are very short of time. Thank you so much for joining me on the broadcast. And with that, we're slipping into a short commercial break. We'll be back shortly.